Poor girl gives a gift to a sad billionaire on Father's Day. What happens next is unbelievable. The wooden bench was cold against Rowan's back. He adjusted his coat and watched the families walking through the park. Fathers carrying children on their shoulders, kids running with colorful balloons, laughter echoing through the trees. It was Father's Day and he was completely alone. His fingers tightened around the phone in his pocket. No calls, no messages. Chloe wasn't going to call. It had been 3 months since they last spoke, when she had chosen to live with her mother for good. "You never have time for me anyway, Dad," were her last words before she slammed the door. Rowan ran a hand over his face. At 42, he had everything he'd ever wanted. A prosperous company, a large house, enough money to buy anything. But there, on that bench, he felt emptier than ever. The cold afternoon wind stirred the dry leaves around his feet. He watched a father teaching his young son to ride a bike. The boy fell, cried for 2 seconds, and then laughed as his father helped him up. Rowan remembered when Chloe was that small. He'd always promised he would teach her to ride a bike, but he never found the time. A small shadow appeared in front of him. "Hi." Rowan looked up and saw a little blonde girl with messy hair and enormous blue eyes. She was holding a crumpled piece of paper in her small hands, and there was dirt under her fingernails. Her clothes were dirty, but her smile was genuine. "Hi," he replied, trying to smile back. The girl took a step forward, holding out the paper carefully, as if it were something precious. "I made this with my heart. I don't have a daddy." Rowan took the drawing gently. It was simple, made with a red crayon, a large heart in the middle of the page, with lines that looked like hair coming out of the sides. In the corner, in crooked and uncertain letters, was written, "Dad." Some letters were upside down, others were just scribbles. Something tightened in his chest. The words came out before he could think. "My daughter left." The girl tilted her head to the side like a curious little bird. "Why?" "Because." Rowan stopped. How could he explain to a 5-year-old that he had been a terrible father, that he worked so much he forgot to live, that he lost the only person who truly mattered because of his own ambition? "Hi, because I didn't know how to be a good dad." "Oh." She nodded as if that made perfect sense. "Can I sit? My feet are hurting." Rowan looked at her little feet, shod in worn-out sneakers that must have been white once. He slid over, making room on the bench. The girl climbed up with difficulty, swinging her little legs that didn't reach the ground. "What's your name?" he asked, noticing how she snuggled into the corner of the bench. "Emily. And you?" "Rowan." He studied her little face, trying to understand why a child so young was alone in the park in the late afternoon. "You said you don't have a dad?" "Never did. My mom said he left before I was born." Emily swung her feet, and Rowan noticed a hole in her sock. "But it's okay. We managed." "We?" "Me and my mom. But she—" The girl's voice grew quieter, and she looked down at her hands. "She went to heaven a while ago." Rowan felt a knot in his stomach. The casual way she said it, as if it were normal, scared him more than if she had cried. "How long ago?" "I don't know for sure. A long time. Since it started getting cold." Emily pointed to the leafless trees. "She got really sick, coughed a lot. Then she stopped talking to me. Then some people came and took her away. They said they were going to take me too, but I ran." "You ran?" "My mum always said, if anyone ever tries to take you, Emily, you run and hide." "So I ran." She shrugged. "Now it's just me." Rowan turned completely towards her, his heart racing. "Emily, where do you live?" "In places," she gestured vaguely. Sometimes in the park. There are some long benches there where you can lie down. Sometimes under the bridge when it rains, because it doesn't get wet there. Yesterday I slept in the church. The door was open and it was warm. The world seemed to stop. Rowan looked at this small child, talking about living on the street as if it were the most normal thing in the world. Her blonde hair was tangled and dirty, and now that he was paying attention, he could see she was thinner than she should be. Her cheeks, which should have been full and rosy, were sunken. "Emily," he said slowly, trying to keep his voice calm. "Did you eat anything today?" She shook her head. This morning I found some cookies in the trash can behind the bakery. But I haven't found anything since. And yesterday was hard. She fiddled with the drawing that was on Rowan's lap. But it's okay. Sometimes it takes a while. I know how to wait. Rowan stood up so quickly, he almost dropped the drawing. The idea of a 5-year-old looking for food in the trash made him physically ill. Let's go. Where to? He held out his hand, and something inside him was decided in that moment. Today I'm going to be your dad, just for tonight. Want to get something to eat? Emily's blue eyes lit up, as if someone had lit 2 stars. She took his hand without hesitation, her small, cold fingers intertwining with his. Really? You'll be my dad today? I will. The word came out with more certainty than Rowan expected. Dad for a day? I've never had a dad before, she said, almost whispering, as if it were a secret. Not even for a day. They walked through the park, and Rowan noticed how Emily looked at everything with genuine curiosity. She pointed at the dogs passing by, waved to other children, stopped to smell the flowers growing in the beds. It was as if the whole world was new and wonderful to her, despite everything she had been through. Rowan, she said as they walked, what's it like to be a dad? The question caught him off guard. What do you mean? Like, what do dads do? Besides give you food. Rowan thought of Chloe, of all the moments he had missed. They take care of you, protect you, read stories before bed, teach you things. What kind of things? How to tie your shoes, how to brush your teeth, how to be brave when you're scared. Emily stopped walking. I already know how to be brave. My mum taught me that. She did. Yeah, she used to say, Emily, you're brave as a lion. And when I was scared at night, she would hold my hand and sing a song. What song? I don't remember it well, but it was pretty. Emily started walking again. Can you sing? Not very well. That's okay. I can't either. The diner on the corner had warm lights and smelled of hamburgers. Rowan chose a table in the corner, away from the crowd. Emily climbed onto the chair and knelt on it, resting her elbows on the table as if preparing for a party. It's pretty in here, she said, looking around with wide eyes. There are flowers on the table. Rowan looked at the simple little vase with an artificial daisy. To him, it was just cheap decoration. To Emily, it was magic. Can I order anything? She asked, flipping through the menu even though she couldn't read. Anything. Even French fries. Even French fries. And ice cream after. Rowan smiled. And ice cream after. When the waiter arrived, Emily pointed to a picture of a hamburger with fries and said, this one, please, and a chocolate milkshake. Then she looked at Rowan, worried. Is chocolate really okay? Chocolate is okay. Rowan ordered only a coffee, but changed his mind when he saw her expression. A child shouldn't eat alone. Actually, I'll have the same thing she's having. Emily smiled so wide that Rowan felt something melt inside his chest. It was as if he had just given her the greatest gift in the world. While they waited, she began to talk. She told him about her mother, who cleaned houses and always came home tired. About how they would watch cartoons together on a broken phone, sharing an earbud. About the small apartment where they lived, which had a window that looked out onto a schoolyard. I liked watching the kids play, she said. My mom said one day I'd get to play with them too. You've never been to school? No. My mom wanted to enroll me, but it was hard. There were papers she couldn't get. Emily fidgeted with a napkin. Then she got sick and couldn't work anymore. Rowan swallowed hard. And then it got hard to pay the rent. The man would come knock on the door every day yelling. My mum would cry when she thought I wasn't looking. Her eyes grew distant. On the last day, she gave me a really tight hug and said I was the most important thing in her world. The hamburger arrived, and Rowan watched as Emily ate with both hands, getting ketchup all over her face. It was impossible not to notice how she savored every bite, chewing slowly, as if she wanted the food to last forever. Rowan, now, she said suddenly, her mouth full. Are you a real dad? I am. I have a daughter named Chloe. How old is she? 8. Is she pretty? Very. She has blonde hair like yours, and blue eyes too. Emily stopped chewing. Just like me. Just like you. Where is she? Living with her mum. He stirred his coffee, avoiding her gaze. We don't talk much. Why? It was the second time she had asked that question, and again Rowan found himself without a simple answer. How could he explain that he had lost his daughter because of his own selfishness, that he chose work every single time he had to choose? Because I was bad at it, he said finally. Being a dad. Emily stopped chewing completely. But you're being a good dad to me today. Her words hit him like a punch to the gut. Rowan swallowed hard and changed the subject. Do you want dessert? Can I really? Of course. They ordered ice cream, and Emily told him more about her life. Rowan learned that she only knew a few letters that her mother had taught her, that her favorite toy was a rag doll named Anna that she lost when she had to run from the last place she was sleeping. It was the only thing I had left from my mom, she said, stirring the melted ice cream. She sewed it for me when I was a baby. Do you miss her? Every day. But sometimes I pretend she's with me, that she's watching me. Emily looked up. I think she's happy I found a dad today. Rowan felt his eyes burn. When they finished eating, it was already night. The streetlights came on, and the diner's crowd had thinned. Emily was fighting sleep, her eyes heavy, but she insisted on staying awake. I don't want the day to end, she whispered. When it ends, you'll leave. Rowan looked at the small child, so tired, so alone, and knew he couldn't just let her go back to the street. Emily, he said softly. Do you want to sleep at my house tonight? I have warm blankets. She sat up straight in her chair, suddenly wide awake. Her blue eyes widened. Really? At your house? Really? With a soft pillow and everything? Then I'll go. Her smile lit up her whole face. Dad for a day. Rowan paid the bill and they left together. Emily took his hand without him asking, her small, cold fingers intertwined with his. As they walked down the dark street, Rowan wondered what he was doing. He didn't know this child, knew nothing about taking care of a 5-year-old girl by himself. But when he looked down and saw Emily walking beside him, trusting him completely, he knew he couldn't do anything else. Rowan, she said, squeezing his hand. What? Thank you for being my dad today. It was the best day of my life. He squeezed her small hand back. Thank you for letting me be. And for the first time in months, Rowan didn't feel alone. The house was shrouded in silence when Rowan opened the front door. He turned on the lights in the foyer, and Emily stood at the entrance, looking around with wide eyes. The house was too big for one person, full of expensive furniture and empty spaces that echoed his footsteps. Oh wow, she whispered, as if she were afraid to speak loudly and break something. It's so pretty. Is it all yours? It is. Rowan took off his coat and hung it in the closet, watching as Emily admired the crystal chandelier on the ceiling. Want a tour? Emily nodded, still holding his hand. They walked through the living room, where a massive television dominated an entire wall. Beige leather sofas were arranged with military precision, cushions aligned, without a single mark of use. Everything was immaculate and cold. Does anyone else live here? Emily asked, running her fingers over the gleaming coffee table. No, just me. It must be lonely, she said, walking to the large window that overlooked the garden. I've always wanted a house with a garden. The girl's simple observation caught him off guard. Rowan stopped walking and looked around his own house, trying to see it through her eyes. It was lonely. He had bought this house thinking of impressing clients, of showing success. He had never thought about making it a real home. Sometimes it is, he admitted, very lonely. Do you have any plants? No, I've never had time to take care of plants. Emily touched the window pane. My mum had a little plant on the windowsill. It was just a little pot with a little purple flower, but she took care of it every day. She said plants keep you company. What happened to it? It died when Mommy died. No one watered it anymore. Her eyes looked sad for a moment, but then they started to sparkle again. But you could plant something in the garden. They went up the stairs, and Rowan showed her the master bathroom. You can take a bath here. There are clean towels in the cabinet. Emily entered the bathroom and stopped in the middle, spinning slowly to see everything. The marble bathtub, The shower with multiple heads, the soft towels stacked neatly. She touched the golden faucet with reverence. "Does hot water come out?" "It does. Always. Always." Her eyes filled with tears, but she blinked them away quickly. "It's been a long time since I've had a hot bath." Rowan felt his chest tighten. "How long?" Since before Mummy got sick. We didn't have hot water at our place. The shower broke and there was no money to fix it." She approached the bathtub. "And after on the street, cold water from the park's water fountain, when there was any." "And how did you wash yourself?" "In the bus station bathroom sometimes, or when it rained, I'd stand in the rain. But the water was always cold." Emily tested the faucet and a smile spread across her face as the hot water came out. "Is this magic?" Rowan laughed, the first genuine laugh he'd had in months. "It's not magic, it's plumbing. To me, it's magic. Tonight, you can stay under the hot water for as long as you want." Her smile was like the rising sun. "Really? Even if I take a long time?" "Even if you take a long time." Rowan left her exploring the bathroom and went to the room that had once been Chloe's. The door had been closed for months. He took a deep breath before turning the doorknob. The room was exactly as Chloe had left it. The bed made with the pink and purple comforter, shelves full of books and stuffed animals organized by size, a small desk where she did her homework. Rowan had kept everything untouched, as if it were a shrine to his own guilt. He approached the dresser and hesitated before opening the first drawer. There were the clothes Chloe had left behind, items that no longer fit, or that she didn't want to take. Folded t-shirts, small socks, pajamas that once smelled of children's shampoo. In the second drawer, he found what he was looking for, a pair of flannel pajamas with a unicorn print that Chloe used to wear when she was 6. They were light pink with gold details, and had been her favorite for a long time. They should fit Emily. The two were similar in size, despite the age difference. Chloe had always been big for her age, and Emily was a bit small for 5. Rowan held the pajamas for a moment, remembering Chloe wearing them, jumping on the bed before sleep, striking princess poses in the mirror. She had loved those pajamas until they became too small. When he returned to the bathroom, Emily was sitting on the edge of the tub, testing the water temperature with her fingertips. Her eyes were closed, and she seemed at peace for the first time since they met. "The water is perfect," she said without opening her eyes. "Not too hot, not too cold." "I found some clothes for you to sleep in," Rowan said, showing her the pajamas. Emily opened her eyes and looked at the clothes. Her face lit up. "Wow, they're so pretty. They have unicorns." "Whose are they?" Rowan hesitated. "They were hers. Your daughter's." "Chloe's, yes." Emily took the pajamas carefully, as if they were made of crystal. "Won't she be mad if I wear them?" "She won't." Rowan had to swallow the lump in his throat. "She's grown. They don't fit her anymore." "Did she like unicorns?" "A lot. She was obsessed with them when she was little. Said one day she was going to find a real unicorn." Emily smiled. "I like unicorns too. I think they're magic, like hot water." "Thank you," she added, hugging the pajamas to her chest. "I'll take really good care of them, I promise." Rowan left the bathroom and waited in the living room. He could hear the sound of the water running, and then a sound he hadn't heard in a long time. Someone humming softly in the bath. It was a sad and beautiful melody, probably the song her mother used to sing. He sat on the sofa and looked around the house. Everything was perfectly organized but empty. There were no photos on the coffee table, no magnets on the fridge, no signs that anyone actually lived there. It was more of a showroom than a home. 30 minutes later, Emily came down the stairs wearing Chloe's pajamas. The fabric was a little loose on her shoulders, but the length was perfect. Her blonde hair was clean and shiny, combed back and still damp, and her rosy face glowed with cleanliness. "How do I look?" she asked, doing a little twirl to show off the pajamas. "Beautiful," Rowan answered, and it was true, clean and properly dressed. Emily looked like a normal child. A child who should be sleeping in her own bed, with her own parents, not on the cold city streets. The bath was wonderful. The water was really warm, just like you promised. And there was a soap that smells like flowers. She came closer to him, smelling her own arm. Smell how good it is, Rowan smiled. Lavender. Chloe liked that soap too. She had good taste. Emily looked around the room. Where did she sleep? I'll show you. Rowan took her back upstairs to Chloe's room. He had changed the sheets while she was bathing, placed a folded t-shirt of his on the dresser in case the pajamas didn't fit. Now he regretted choosing this room. It was filled with painful memories. Emily entered the room and stopped in the middle, looking at everything with admiration. Wow, what a beautiful room. She must be a princess. She always said she wanted to be a princess when she grew up. And now she wants to be a veterinarian. At least, that's what she wanted the last time we talked. Emily approached the bookshelf and ran her fingers along the spines. Can she read all of these? She was a very good reader, from a young age. Did you teach her? Rowan shook his head, feeling the familiar guilt tighten his chest. No. She learned at school someone with teachers. Emily climbed onto the bed and snuggled under the comforter. It's so soft, she said, sinking into the mattress. So different from the floor. You've been sleeping on the floor. Most of the time. Sometimes a bench, and when I find a hidden one where no one bothers me. But the floor isn't so bad when you get used to it. The trick is to find cardboard or newspaper to put underneath. She pulled the blanket up to her chin. This is like sleeping on a cloud. Rowan sat on the edge of the bed, in the same spot where he used to sit when he read stories to Chloe years ago. Do you need anything? Water? Another blanket? No. Emily watched him for a moment, studying his face with those intelligent blue eyes. Rowan. What? Where is she now? The question he had been avoiding. Rowan looked at his own hands, trying to find words a 5-year-old could understand. She chose to live with her mom. I wasn't a good father. Always busy. Meetings, flights, deadlines. She got tired of waiting, and now I miss her so much. Emily sat up in bed, the comforter falling to her waist. She crossed her little legs and leaned forward. What do you mean, busy? Rowan took a deep breath. You know when you really want someone to play with you, but that person always says later and after a bit, I can't right now. I know. My mum did that sometimes when she was really tired from work. It was like that with me, but worse. Chloe wanted me to watch cartoons with her, to teach her to ride a bike, to take her to the park. But I was always working. There was always a meeting, a client, a project I thought was more important. He ran a hand through his hair. Or so I thought. And she got sad. Very sad. She tried to tell me about school, about her friends, about her dreams. She would come running to show me drawings she made, good grades she got, teeth that fell out. But I was always on the phone, or on the computer, or packing a suitcase to travel. His voice grew lower. Until one day, she stopped trying. Emily tilted her head, her still damp hair falling over one shoulder. What do you mean? Stopped. She stopped seeking me out, stopped telling me things. When I got home, if I even came home, she was already asleep. When I woke up, she had already left for school with her mum. Rowan felt his eyes burn, and I thought everything was fine because I was managing to make more money, move up in the company, impress my bosses. But it wasn't fine. No, nothing was fine. Her mother noticed first. She said Chloe cried every night, asking why her daddy didn't like her, why he never had time. He closed his eyes, remembering that terrible conversation. When I finally realized what was happening, it was already too late. Emily was quiet for a moment, processing the story. She wiggled her feet under the blanket, thoughtful. What happened next? They moved out. Chloe's mom said she needed a more stable environment, someone who was actually present. Rowan swallowed hard. And she was right. I was a ghost in my own daughter's life. Did you try to talk to her? To explain? I tried. But Chloe looked at me like I was a stranger. And I was, wasn't I? I was a stranger to my own daughter. He looked around the room full of memories. I keep her room the same, hoping one day she'll come back. But I know she won't. Why are you so sure? Because I broke her trust. Because when she needed me most, I chose other things. Because she learned to live without me and discovered she lived better. Emily got up on the bed and moved closer to him, kneeling right beside him. Her blue eyes were serious, older than they should be. "Rowan, what? Do you want me to stay with you tonight?" The simple question disarmed him completely. There was no pity in her voice, no attempt at forced consolation. It was genuine, pure, from the heart. "I'd like that very much," he answered, his voice hoarse. "Then I'll stay." She lay down again, pulling the blanket up to her chin. "We can be a family today. Would you do that?" "Of course. Everyone deserves a family, even if it's just for a day." "Good night, Rowan." "Good night, Emily." Rowan turned off the light and left the room, leaving the door ajar. He stood in the hallway for a few minutes, listening to her breathing calm until it became the deep rhythm of a child's sleep. He went down to the living room and sat on the sofa, but sleep wouldn't come. He kept thinking about the conversation they had, about how Emily had listened to his story without judgment, without trying to fix anything, without offering empty advice. She just listened and offered company. At 3 in the morning, he finally fell asleep on the sofa, still dressed, dreaming of a little Chloe running through the garden. He was awakened by a gentle touch on his shoulder. He opened his eyes and saw Emily standing beside the sofa, already dressed in the clothes from the day before. The morning sun streamed through the large windows, creating golden stripes on the living room floor. "Good morning," she said softly, as if not wanting to startle him. "Are you okay?" Rowan sat up, feeling the soreness in his neck from sleeping in a strange position. "Good morning. Why aren't you sleeping? It's still early." "I slept a lot. I slept like a princess in the soft bed." She looked at him with concern. "But you seemed sad down here. You were making noise in your sleep." "Noise?" "Like moaning." "Bad dream." Rowan ran a hand over his face. "I think so." Emily went to the armchair and picked up a blanket that was folded there, the same one Chloe used when she watched TV. "Can I?" "Can you what?" Without waiting for an answer, she came back over to him and spread the blanket over Rowan's legs, carefully smoothing the folds. Then she sat next to him on the sofa, very close, resting her small arm against his. "Do you want me to stay here just for a little bit?" Rowan looked at her, surprised by the gesture. "You don't have to take care of me, Emily. I should be taking care of you." "I know, but I want to stay." She settled in better beside him, pulling part of the blanket over herself. "And when Mommy was sad, and she was sad a lot, I would do this. I'd stay close to her until she felt better." "And did it work?" "It always worked. Sometimes she would cry, sometimes she would be quiet, but in the end, she always managed to smile." Emily rested her head on his arm. "Mommy said that sometimes we just need to know we're not alone." Rowan felt a strange, warm feeling spreading through his chest. It was different from anything he had ever felt. It wasn't pity or charity or obligation. It was pure care, without expecting anything in return. Emily wasn't trying to fix anything, wasn't offering advice or miraculous solutions. She was just there, present, sharing the moment. "Emily?" "Thank you." "For what?" "For staying." She snuggled closer to him. "It's what families do, right? They stick together when someone is sad." Rowan closed his eyes, feeling her small warm weight beside him. For the first time in years, he didn't feel alone. He didn't feel like a complete failure. Maybe there was still hope for him. Maybe he could still learn to be the father Chloe deserved, and maybe, just maybe, he could give Emily what she never had. A real family. They sat there in silence, sharing the blanket and the company, as the morning sun warmed the room and made the house a little less empty. It was on the third day that Rowan noticed the change. He was in his office, trying to concentrate on the financial reports he had brought home, when he heard a sound he hadn't heard in years. Someone humming around the house. It was a soft, almost whispered melody coming from the living room. Rowan got up from his chair and peeked through the door. Emily was sitting on the living room floor, surrounded by the cushions she had taken from the sofa. She was playing with a pen and some papers she had found, drawing and singing a made-up song. "The little house has a window. The window has a curtain. The curtain has a flower. The flower is very tiny," she sang, moving the pen on the paper. Rowan leaned against the doorframe, watching. It was surreal to see that space, and which had always been as quiet as a museum, so full of life. Emily had turned the formal living room into an impromptu playground, and somehow nothing seemed out of place. She didn't see him watching. She continued singing and drawing, lost in her own world. She created an entire family on paper. A mommy, a daddy, a little girl, and even a dog, all holding hands, all smiling. And the daddy of the house is very handsome, and the mommy of the house makes yummy food. The song continued, invented on the spot. Rowan felt something warm in his chest. When was the last time his house had music? When was the last time someone felt free enough to sing in it? On the fourth day, Emily discovered she could make an echo in the upstairs hallway. "Hello, hello, hello," she shouted, running from one end to the other and listening to her own voice bounce back. "Rowan, come see. The house is talking to me." She spent the entire morning talking to the echo, telling stories to the walls. Rowan listened to her from downstairs, smiling without realizing it as he tried to work. Once upon a time, there was a girl who lived in a magical house, Emily began, her voice echoing down the hall. The house was so big it had an echo, and the echo was her friend. Rowan went upstairs to see what she was doing. He found Emily lying on the hallway floor, looking up at the ceiling, talking to the wooden beams as if they were people. "Hi, Beam. Do you like living on the ceiling? It must be cool to see everything from up there," she said, waving upwards. "Who are you talking to?" Rowan asked, sitting on the floor beside her. "To the beams. They're very old. They must have lots of stories to tell." Emily pointed to the ceiling. "That one in the middle looks like a grandma, and that one at the end looks like a grumpy grandpa." Rowan looked up, trying to see what she saw. To him, they were just pieces of wood. To Emily, they were characters with their own personalities. "What about this one?" he asked, pointing to a smaller beam. "That's the grandma beam's daughter. She's shy. That's why she's thinner." Emily smiled. "Do you want to lie here with me and listen to their stories?" Rowan lay down on the cold hallway floor next to Emily. They both stared at the ceiling in silence. He tried to imagine the beams as people, as she did, but all he could see was wood. "Can you hear them talking?" he asked. "Not with my ears. I listen with my heart." Emily turned her head to look at him. "You can't hear them." "No. It's because you forgot how grown-ups forget those things sometimes." She went back to looking at the ceiling. "But I can teach you again." On the fifth day, Emily turned the kitchen into a stage. Rowan found her standing on a chair, using a fork as a microphone, singing to the pots hanging from the rack. "Good morning, pots. Good morning, spoons. Did you sleep well? Did you dream of yummy food?" she sang, swaying from side to side. The pots swayed slightly with the vibration of her voice, as if they were responding. Emily interpreted this as a conversation. "Oh, you want to make pancakes? What a great idea! I'll go get Rowan." "Rowan!" she shouted, still standing on the chair. "The pots want to make pancakes." Rowan appeared at the kitchen door, trying not to laugh. "Gare the pots said that. They did. The big pot over there said it misses making a yummy breakfast." Emily jumped off the chair. "Can we make them?" Rowan looked at the pot, then at Emily. "I think we can grant their request." On the sixth day, Emily created a shadow puppet theater on the living room wall. Rowan came from the kitchen with a glass of water and found her making shapes with her hands in front of the lamp. Rabbits, birds, dogs, they all danced on the white wall. "Once upon a time, there was a little bunny who wanted to fly," she narrated, moving her hands to create the shadow of a rabbit. "He tried and tried, but he couldn't get off the ground." The shadow of the rabbit hopped on the wall, trying to fly. "Then a little bird came to help," Emily continued, creating a bird with her other hand. "He taught the bunny that flying isn't just with your wings, it's with your heart." Rowan sat on the sofa, mesmerized by the improvised story. Emily wasn't just playing, she was creating art, telling stories that touched the heart. "And did the bunny learn to fly?" Rowan asked. "He did. But he discovered that really flying is making others smile, and he already knew how to do that." The shadows transformed into a family of animals hugging. "The end," Rowan applauded. "That was a beautiful story. Do you want to tell one?" "I don't know how to tell stories." "Everyone knows how. You just have to say what your heart is thinking. Rowan tried to make a shadow on the wall, but his hands felt clumsy compared to Emily's. She laughed, not in mockery, but with pure joy. "Let me help you," she said, guiding his hands. "Like this. See? You made a dog." It was on the 7th day that Rowan woke up smiling. He went down to the kitchen and found Emily already awake, sitting at the table, drawing on a piece of paper. She had learned to open the fridge and get the things she could reach: an apple, a glass of milk. "Good morning," she said cheerfully. "I already had breakfast by myself. I didn't want to wake you." Rowan looked at her, messy hair still in her pajamas, smiling as if every day were a new adventure. Something moved inside him, a desire he hadn't felt in a long time. "Emily," he said, surprising himself. "Yes. Do you want pancakes for breakfast?" Her eyes lit up as if he had offered her diamonds. "Really? You know how to make pancakes?" Sort of. We can try together." "Yes, happy pancakes." They laughed before they even started cooking. Rowan hadn't made pancakes in years. In fact, he barely cooked at all. He always ate out or ordered in. But there, with Emily by his side, it felt natural to grab the ingredients and try to remember how his own mother used to make them. "You need eggs," Emily said, being helpful. "My mom used to put in eggs." "How many eggs?" "All of them," she replied, laughing. Rowan took 3 eggs. Emily insisted on cracking one of them, and the white ran all over the table. Instead of getting annoyed, Rowan laughed. When was the last time he had laughed at a mess in the kitchen? "Oops," Emily said, licking her egg-covered finger. "It slipped." "No problem. We have more eggs." They mixed the batter together, Emily standing on a chair to reach the bowl. She hummed as she stirred, making up a song about dancing pancakes. "Round pancake, golden pancake, yummy pancake, beloved pancake," she sang, making the spoon swirl in the bowl. When Rowan poured the first bit of batter onto the pan, it formed a strange shape. Not round, not square, more like a map of an imaginary country. "It's crooked," Emily pointed, laughing. "Very crooked," Rowan agreed, trying to flip the pancake with a spatula. The pancake tore in the middle. Half stuck to the pan, half flew to the side. They both laughed so hard that Rowan almost dropped the pan. "This is going to be the ugliest pancake in the world," he said. "But it'll be the yummiest," Emily retorted. "A happy pancake doesn't care if it's pretty or ugly." The second attempt was better, but still far from perfect. The third looked like a crooked heart. The fourth had the consistency of rubber. "We're terrible at this," Rowan said, but he was smiling. "We are, but it's fun." They ate the misshapen pancakes with syrup and laughed with every bite. It was the best meal Rowan had had in years, not because it was delicious, but because it was made with joy. "Rowan," Emily said, wiping syrup from her chin. "What? Thank you for making pancakes with me. Thank you for teaching me to laugh at a crooked pancake." That evening, after the simple dinner they managed to prepare together, sandwiches that also turned out crooked, Emily took a bath and put on Chloe's pajamas again. Rowan was cleaning up the kitchen when she appeared at the door. Damp hair, bare feet. "Rowan." "Yes." "Do you know how to read stories like dads do?" The question took him by surprise. Rowan stopped putting away the dishes and looked at her. "What do you mean?" "Like, before bed, with different voices for each character. My mum always said she would read to me when she got better, but..." Emily shuffled her feet. "Teo, she never got better." Rowan felt his chest tighten. "I can try." "Really? Really? Let's see what we have in the library." They went up to the office, where Rowan had a shelf full of books he never opened. Most were about business and economics, but in the back, dusty, were some old books from his own childhood. "This one," Rowan said, picking up a fairy tale book with a colorful cover. "My mother used to read this to me." They went to Chloe's room, where Emily had already gotten used to sleeping. Rowan sat on the edge of the bed, the book in his lap, not quite sure how to begin. "How does this work?" he asked. "You open the book and read. But you have to make funny voices." Emily settled under the covers, her eyes shining with anticipation. Rowan opened the book to the first page. "Once upon a time..." "No, no," Emily interrupted him. "You have to do it with a storyteller voice, like this. Once upon a team..." Rowan laughed. "Once upon a team..." he repeated, mimicking her tone. That's it. Now we're talking. Rowan began to read the story of Little Red Riding Hood. At first, his voice was monotonous, but slowly, encouraged by Emily's giggles, he started to create different voices for each character. A sweet voice for Little Red, a deep one for the wolf, a trembling one for the grandmother. Emily listened, enchanted, her eyes glued to his face as if she were watching the best show in the world. And then the huntsman heard the screams. Rowan used a heroic voice for the huntsman. "Wow, you're good at this," Emily whispered, as if not wanting to break the spell. When Rowan closed the book, Emily was silent for a few seconds, processing the story. "So that's the first time anyone has read to me," she said softly. "Did you like it?" "It was the most beautiful thing that's ever happened to me." She snuggled deeper into her pillow. "Can you read another one tomorrow?" "I can read as many as you want. Promise." "Promise." Emily smiled, her eyes already heavy with sleep. "Rowan? What? You're turning into a real dad." Rowan felt something shift inside his chest. He tucked the blanket around her and kissed her forehead, a gesture that came naturally, without thinking. "Good night, Emily." "Good night, Daddy." The word hung in the air even after Rowan turned off the light and left the room. Daddy. She had called him Daddy. He went down to the living room and sat on the sofa where, a week ago, he had felt lost and alone. Now the house was full of life. There were drawings taped to the fridge, cushions out of place, pots that had been used to make real food. There was music in the walls, stories in the air, laughter echoing through the hallways. There was a family. Rowan stood up and went to the window, looking out at the garden where Emily had said she'd like to have plants. Tomorrow, he thought, tomorrow they could plant something together. Maybe purple flowers, like the one Emily's mom had. The bond between them was quietly strengthening, built not on grand gestures but on small moments. Crooked pancakes, poorly told stories, made-up songs, of love that grew not in a hurry, but with certainty. It was during breakfast on the 10th day that Rowan made the discovery that changed everything. Emily was sitting at the table, trying to draw letters on a napkin with a pencil she had found. Her attempts were adorable, but clearly inexperienced. She made curves where there should have been straight lines, lines where there should have been curves. "What are you writing?" Rowan asked, sitting down next to her with his cup of coffee. "My name," Emily replied, concentrating. "At least I think it's my name." Rowan looked at the napkin. There were marks that vaguely resembled letters, but they didn't form anything recognizable. It wasn't her fault. It was clear she had never been properly taught. "Emily," he said carefully, "do you know how to write your name?" She stopped drawing and looked up at him. "Sort of. My mom showed me a few times, yes, but it was hard. She would come home so tired from work." "And at school? Didn't anyone teach you at school?" Emily shook her head, going back to fiddling with the pencil. "I've never been to school." Rowan felt as if he'd been punched. "Never. Never. My mom couldn't get me in after I was alone." "But you're 5 years old. You should have been in school for at least a year." "My mom always said she would enroll me when things got better, but they never got better." Emily shrugged, as if it were a normal thing. "She taught me a few letters, but not many." Rowan shot up from his chair so fast he nearly spilled his coffee. A 5-year-old child who had never set foot in a school, who couldn't write her own name, who didn't know the full alphabet. "Emily," he said, trying to stay calm, "would you like to learn?" Her eyes lit up. "Learn what?" "To write, to read, all the things they teach in school." "Do you know how to teach?" Rowan paused to think. He had helped Chloe with homework a few times, in the rare moments he was home. But teaching from scratch was different. "I can try," he said, "if you want to." "I do." Emily clapped her hands. "I really do." Rowan went to his office and came back with a new notebook, still in its packaging, and a pencil case full of colorful pencils and pens. He had bought these supplies years ago for Chloe, but she never used them. She preferred her own school supplies. "Is this all mine?" Emily asked, touching the notebook as if it were a treasure. "All yours." They sat at the kitchen table, the notebook between them. Rowan opened it to the first page and wrote Emily in large, clear letters. "This is your name," he said. Emily studied the letters carefully. "It's different than I imagined." How did you imagine it? More round, like a little ball. She traced her finger over the letters. Can you teach me how to make it like that? Rowan took her small hand and guided the pencil. The first letter is E. Let's do it together. They drew the letter E slowly, Rowan holding Emily's hand. It was a strange and good feeling at the same time. He had never taught Chloe how to write her first letters. When she was this little, he was always working. Now on your own, Rowan said. Emily tried to make an E by herself. It was a bit crooked, but it was clearly an E. Very good, Rowan smiled. Now let's move on to M. The I is easy, Emily said, making a straight line with a dot on top. It's just a little stick. Exactly, you're smart. They spent an hour working on the 5 letters of her name. Emily was determined, erasing and redoing when it didn't look the way she wanted. Her letters were uneven and childlike, but they had personality. Done, she said when she finally wrote Emily on her own. That's me. That's you, Rowan confirmed. Now you know how to write your name. What about yours? Can I learn yours too? Rowan wrote Rowan under her name. This is me. Emily counted the letters with her finger. Your name is longer than mine. It is. It has 5 letters. Yours has 5 too. Correction from original script where Austin has 6 letters and Leah has 4. Rowan and Emily both have 5. Can I learn to write your name too? Of course. They worked on Rowan's name, and it was a bit harder. There were letters Emily didn't know, like the W and the N. Rowan had to teach them from scratch. Why does this letter make that sound? She asked about the W. Every letter has its sound, Rowan explained. Want to learn the sounds? I do. Rowan went back to basics, something she should have been taught years ago. The vowels, A, E, I, O, U. A is for apple, he said, drawing a large A. A is for apple, Emily repeated. Farsikisama. E is for elephant. E. I is for igloo. E. O is for octopus. O. U is for umbrella. Ooh. Emily repeated each sound with enthusiasm, exaggerating the pronunciation. Soon she was combining the vowels, making nonsense sounds that made her laugh. Eeyoo, she shouted. I sound like a ghost. Rowan laughed. You do. Now you do it. Eeyoo. Rowan made a ghost voice, and Emily burst out laughing. They spent the rest of the morning with the vowels. Rowan created simple games, finding things in the house that started with each vowel, making animal sounds using only vowels, drawing the letters in the air. And you learn fast, Rowan said when Emily managed to write all 5 vowels by herself. It's because you teach with patience, she replied, concentrating on making a perfect A. The observation caught him off guard. Patience. When was the last time someone said he had patience? Chloe always complained that he was rushed, that he wanted her to learn things too quickly. You really think so? He asked. I do. You don't get mad when I make a mistake, and you explain as many times as I need. Emily looked at him. My mum was like that too. Patient. Rowan felt something tighten in his chest. Tell me about her. She was pretty. She had hair like mine, but longer. And she always smelled like soap, even when she was tired. Emily went back to drawing. She worked a lot, cleaned houses for rich people. Where did you live? In a tiny little apartment. It only had 1 bed, so we slept together, and a little window that looked out onto the schoolyard. Emily smiled. I liked watching the kids play. Did you want to play with them? I did, but my mum said one day I'd get to go to school too, when we had money. Her voice grew lower. But we never did. Rowan clenched his fist under the table. A child shouldn't have to wait to have money to go to school. A child shouldn't grow up watching other kids play through a window, unable to join in. And after she got sick, he asked carefully. Then it got harder. She couldn't work anymore, so there was no money for anything, not even for food sometimes. Emily stopped drawing. In the end, we got evicted. We were on the street for a few days before she went to heaven. Rowan had to control himself to not show the anger he felt, not anger at Emily or her mother, but at the system, at society, at himself, for living in a bubble while children were starving on the street. That must have been very hard, he said. It was, but my mom always said we were a family, even without a house. Even without a dad, Emily smiled again. She would hug me every night and say she loved me more than all the stars in the sky. She sounds like she was a wonderful mother. She was the best mom in the world. They continued the lesson, but Rowan was distracted, thinking about the life Emily had led, a life of hardship that no child should ever know. After lunch, they decided to go out into the yard. Rowan had bought flower seeds the day before, as he had promised himself. It was time to plant something together. Rowan's yard was large and well maintained by a gardener who came once a week. But it was sterile, just grass and trimmed bushes. There was no life, no color. "Where are we going to plant?" Emily asked, carrying the packet of seeds. "Wherever you want." She chose a little corner near the kitchen window where the sun hit in the morning. "Here, so we can see the flowers growing while we have breakfast." They dug small holes in the dirt with their hands. Emily insisted on doing everything herself, getting her hands covered in dirt and smiling when she found worms. "Hi, little worm," she said to one she found. "Sorry to bother your house." Rowan watched, fascinated by her natural ability to talk to everything, plants, animals, objects. To Emily, the entire world was alive. "Rowan saw," she said suddenly, still digging in the dirt. "What?" "We were poor. We slept on the floor, but my mum hugged me tight. I never knew my dad." The confession came out naturally, without drama, as if it were a normal part of the conversation, but Rowan felt the weight of her words. "That must have been hard," he said, not knowing what else to say. "It was. But we had each other." Emily carefully planted a seed. "Mommy said family isn't about having money or a big house, it's about taking care of each other." Rowan planted his own seed, thinking about her words. "And now? Now you have a place to sleep, and you have a dad to hug you too." Emily stopped planting and looked at him, her blue eyes serious. "Really? Really? If you want, I want to very much." She moved closer to him, still on her knees in the dirt. "Can I give you a hug now?" Rowan opened his arms, and Emily threw herself into them, getting his shirt dirty with soil. But he didn't care. He hugged the little girl against his chest, feeling how she snuggled in there as if it were her place in the world. "Thank you for teaching me how to write my name," she whispered. "Thank you for letting me teach you." They stayed there hugging in the yard, surrounded by planted seeds that would one day be flowers, like themselves, Rowan and Emily, who were planting the seeds of a family that would one day be strong and beautiful. "Rowan," Emily said, still hugging him. "What? Tomorrow. Can you teach me more letters? All the letters you want. And numbers too. And numbers too. And then can I go to a real school?" Rowan looked at her. This child who had transformed his life in just 10 days. "You're going to have the best education in the world, I promise." "Really? Really? You deserve every good thing life has to offer." Emily smiled, that smile that lit up everything around her. "Then I'm going to study really hard. I'm going to learn to read big books like yours." "I'm sure you will." They finished planting the seeds and watered the soil with the garden hose. Emily insisted on watering the plants with love, talking to each planted seed. "So I grow up beautiful," she whispered to the damp earth. "We're going to take care of you." Rowan watched her, thinking about how she cared for everything with love. The plants, the improvised toys, him. She was a child who had grown up with little, but who understood the importance of care. That night, after dinner and a bath, they sat at the kitchen table again with the notebook. Emily wanted to practice her name one more time before bed. "Emily," she wrote, taking care with each letter. "Perfect," Rowan said. "Now yours." "Rowan," she wrote more slowly, concentrating on each letter. "Also perfect." Emily looked at the page of the notebook, where the two names were written one under the other. "Now we're a real family," she said. "Our names are together." Rowan looked at the names on the paper, Emily and Rowan, written in the shaky but determined hand of a 5-year-old child. It was official now, somehow. Not on legal papers yet, but in the heart. "We are a family," he agreed. "Forever?" Forever. Emily closed the notebook carefully and hugged it to her chest. This is my family notebook, she said. I'm going to keep it forever. Rowan tucked her into bed that night with a different feeling in his chest. She was no longer just a child he had taken in for a few days. She was his daughter. Not biologically, but in all the ways that mattered. And for the first time since Chloe had left, Rowan felt like a real father. Rowan was in the kitchen helping Emily practice her letters when the doorbell rang. It was Saturday morning, and they had created a routine. Breakfast, notebook lessons, playing in the yard. Life had found a sweet, predictable rhythm. Who could that be? Emily asked, peeking out the kitchen window. Rowan frowned. He wasn't expecting anyone. He went to the door and looked through the peephole. His heart stopped for a second. Chloe. She was standing on the porch, her blonde hair in a ponytail, wearing the blue jacket he had bought for her last birthday. She looked taller, more mature than 3 months ago. Next to her was Claire, his ex-wife, but she was already heading back to the car. Rowan opened the door, trying to control the emotion in his voice. Chloe. Hi, Dad. She looked down, fidgeting with the strap of the small backpack she was carrying. Mum said I could spend the weekend here. If you want. Of course I want. Rowan knelt down to be at her level. I always want you here. You don't even have to ask. Chloe smiled for the first time, a shy little smile. I missed you. I missed you too. So much. Rowan hugged her, breathing in the familiar scent of her shampoo. It was as if a part of himself had come home. Dad, who is it? Came Emily's voice from the kitchen. Chloe pulled away from the hug, looking toward the voice. Who is that? She's a little friend, Rowan said, not sure how to explain. Come on, you'll like her. They walked to the kitchen where Emily was sitting at the table with her notebook open, a pencil in her hand. When she saw Chloe, her eyes lit up. Hi, Emily said, waving. You must be Chloe. Rowan talks about you all the time. Chloe stopped in the middle of the kitchen, looking Emily up and down. The little girl was wearing one of Rowan's old t-shirts as pajamas, her blonde hair messy, her feet bare. There were papers scattered on the table, crayons, remnants of breakfast. So why is she here? Chloe asked Rowan without looking at Emily. She's staying here for a few days, Rowan replied, feeling the tension in the air. Staying here? Chloe looked around the kitchen, noticing the changes. There were drawings taped to the fridge, small plants on the windowsill, a mug with unicorns that was clearly not Rowan's. Jai, for how long? Chloe, sit here with us, Rowan tried. Emily was learning to write. You can help teach her. I know how to write, Emily said excitedly, picking up her pencil. Want to see? I can write my name and your dad's name. Chloe watched as Emily wrote Emily with shaky but neat letters, then Rowan more slowly, concentrating on each letter. "See there," Emily showed the paper proudly. "I learned in just a few days. Your dad is a very good teacher." "My dad," Chloe repeated softly, something shifting in her expression. Rowan noticed the change, but didn't know how to interpret it. "Chloe, want some breakfast or juice?" "She can have my chair," Emily offered, already getting up. "I can sit on the floor." "You don't have to," Chloe said coldly. "I'm not staying long." Emily stopped moving, confused by the older girl's tone. Rowan felt something unpleasant forming in the air. "Chloe," he said carefully, "what's going on?" Chloe looked at Emily again, then at the drawings on the fridge, at the unicorn mug, at the open notebook on the table. Her expression grew more and more closed off. "Is she sleeping in my room?" Chloe asked. Rowan hesitated. "Chloe." "She's sleeping in my room," Chloe repeated, not as a question this time. "Using my things, using my dad." "Chloe, it's not like that. Did you replace me, Dad?" The words came out like an accusation, loaded with pain and anger. Rowan felt the floor disappear from under his feet. "No, Chloe, never. I would never replace you with anything in the world. But she's here, in my place." Chloe pointed at Emily, who had shrunk back in her chair. "She's sleeping in my bed, wearing my clothes, and you're teaching her to write like you never did with me." "I did teach you to write." "No, you never had time. It was always later and after a bit. I can't right now." Chloe's eyes were filled with tears. And now you have time for her." Emily slowly got up from the chair, gathering her pencils with trembling hands. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I didn't know it was your place." "Emily, no," Rowan tried, but she was already leaving the kitchen. "I'll leave," Emily said quietly. "I don't want to cause trouble." "You're not causing trouble." But Emily had already gone up the stairs. Rowan heard the bedroom door close. "Chloe," he turned to his daughter, "you don't understand the situation." "I understand perfectly." Chloe wiped her tears with the back of her hand. "You found a better daughter. One who doesn't complain, who doesn't question, who's happy just to have you look at her." "Chloe, stop. You are my daughter. Nothing will ever change that. But you like her more. It's obvious." Chloe picked up the backpack she had dropped on the floor. "She calls you Daddy, doesn't she, I heard?" Rowan was silent because it was true. "I knew it," Chloe said, a deep sadness in her voice. "You really did replace me." "I didn't. I never would." "Chloe, sit here with me. Let's talk." "I don't want to talk. I want to leave." Chloe headed for the door. "I'm going to call Mom to come get me." "Chloe, wait." But she was already leaving the kitchen. Rowan heard her quick footsteps going up the stairs, then the door to her old room slamming shut. Rowan was left alone in the kitchen, looking at the open notebook on the table, the drawings on the fridge, the organized mess that his life had become. Everything that seemed so right 5 minutes ago now seemed completely wrong. He went up the stairs and knocked on Chloe's door. "Chloe, can I come in?" "No, please, we need to talk. I've said everything I have to say." Rowan sighed and went to the room where Emily was. He knocked lightly on the door. "Emily?" Silence. "Emily, can I come in?" Still silence. Rowan opened the door slowly. The room was empty. The bed was made. Chloe's pajamas folded on top of the pillow. The clothes Emily had been wearing were nowhere to be found. Rowan's heart raced. He ran to the closet, then to the bathroom. "Emily!" Nothing. He ran down the stairs, checked every room, living room, kitchen, office, laundry room. "Emily!" She wasn't in the house. Rowan ran back upstairs and pounded on Chloe's door. "Chloe!" "Open the door." "What?" "Emily is gone. She's not in the house." The door opened immediately. Chloe appeared, her eyes red from crying. "What do you mean, gone? She's nowhere. She left without saying anything." Rowan ran his hands through his hair. Desperate. "Chloe, she's a 5-year-old child who has lived on the streets. If she runs off..." Chloe turned pale. "She ran away because of me." "It's not your fault, it's my fault. I should have explained the situation before." Rowan was pacing back and forth. Where could she have gone? "I don't know. I don't know her." Chloe was starting to panic too. "Dad, what if something happens to her?" "Nothing is going to happen. We'll find her." Rowan grabbed his car keys. "Let's go look." They left the house together. Rowan driving slowly through the neighborhood streets while Chloe looked out the windows. There was no sign of a small, blonde-haired girl walking alone. "Dad," Chloe said after 15 minutes of searching. "Nor where did you meet her?" "At the park. Why, maybe she went back there." "It's where she felt safe before she met you." Rowan turned the car toward the park. Chloe was right. If Emily was scared, she would go back to the place she knew. They parked and ran out. The park was relatively empty for a Saturday morning. A few people jogging, 1 or 2 walking dogs. And there, on the bench where Rowan had found Emily 3 weeks ago, she was, sitting alone, swinging her legs, staring at the ground. She was wearing the old clothes she had on the day they met, which Rowan had put in a bag to wash. She had left the house wearing them. "Emily!" Rowan shouted, running towards her. She looked up, her eyes red. When she saw Rowan and Chloe approaching, she shrank back on the bench. "Hey," Rowan said softly, stopping in front of her. "I was worried." "I'm sorry," Emily whispered. "I didn't mean to worry you. I just wanted to get out of the way." "Your daughter doesn't want me around." Rowan looked at Chloe, who was standing a few feet away, clearly feeling guilty. "Emily." Rowan knelt in front of her, holding her small hands. "Look at me." She lifted her blue eyes, full of unshed tears. "You were alone just like me, now you have us. Just because she's back doesn't mean you have to leave. But she doesn't like me, and she's your real daughter." "You're my real daughter too." It may not be in the same way, but you are. Rowan squeezed her hands. Chloe is jealous. And I understand why. Jealous. She thinks I love you more than her, but that's not true. A father's heart is big enough to love all of his daughters. Chloe slowly approached, listening to the conversation. Her eyes were filled with tears. Emily, she said softly. Emily looked at her, still uncertain. I'm sorry. I was jealous. Can we be friends? Rowan stepped back a little, letting the two girls look at each other. Emily studied Chloe's face for a long moment. You don't want me to live with you? Emily asked. I do, Chloe answered, wiping her own eyes. I just thought my dad would forget about me if he had you. He talks about you all the time, Emily said. He loves you so much. He gets sad when you don't call. Is that true? It is. He has a picture of you on his desk in the office, and he keeps your room just like you left it. Chloe looked at Rowan, surprised. You keep my room the same? I do. I was waiting for you to come back. Chloe started to cry again, but this time it wasn't out of anger. I missed you so much, Dad. I missed you too, every single day. Emily got up from the bench and approached Chloe. Don't cry. Your dad really, really loves you. Chloe looked at Emily, this little girl who was trying to comfort her even after being rejected minutes before. You're very kind, Chloe said. I'm sorry for being mean to you. It's okay. I understand. Emily held out her small hand. Do you want to be my sister? Chloe looked at the outstretched hand, then at Emily's hopeful face, then at Rowan, who was watching them both with his heart in his throat. I do, Chloe said, taking Emily's hand. They hugged right there in the middle of the park, two blonde girls of different ages who had just discovered they could share a father without losing anything. Rowan came closer and hugged them both at the same time, one on each side. My two daughters, he whispered. Forever? Emily asked. Forever, Chloe answered before Rowan could even speak. Shall we go home? Rowan suggested. Let's go, they both said together, and they walked back to the car, Rowan in the middle, each girl holding one of his hands. Actually, it wasn't really Rowan in the middle, it was the three of them together, a family that had been formed in a non-traditional way but was real and strong. Emily, Chloe said as they walked. What? Can you teach me how to make those drawings you taped to the fridge? They're really pretty. I can? And can you teach me how to read? Your dad says you read really well. I can. I have lots of books you'll like. Rowan smiled, listening to the two of them plan activities together. Chloe's jealousy had given way to curiosity, and Emily's shyness was turning into enthusiasm. When they got home, they ran to the room that would now be theirs, for Chloe to show her books to Emily. Rowan watched them go up the stairs hand in hand, two blonde heads leaning toward each other in animated conversation. For the first time in 3 months, his house was complete. It had two daughters, laughter in the halls, life in every room. It had a real family. Sunday dawned with a new sound in Rowan's house, two little girls, voices chatting excitedly in the upstairs bedroom. Chloe had decided to sleep in the room with Emily, and the two had spent the whole night whispering, getting to know each other. Rowan smiled as he heard the laughter coming from upstairs. It was 7 a.m., and normally the house would be completely silent on Sundays. He used to wake up late, have coffee alone, and spend the entire day without speaking to anyone. Now there was life, there was movement, there was the sound of children being children. "Dad!" came Chloe's shout. "Emily wants to learn how to make pancakes. Can we try again?" Rowan laughed, remembering the culinary disaster from the previous week, when he and Emily had produced pancakes that looked more like maps of imaginary countries. "You can. But this time let's try not to burn down the kitchen." "You're the one who burned the pancake," Emily shouted from upstairs, and Rowan heard Chloe burst into laughter. The two of them came running down, still in their pajamas, messy hair, smiling as if they had been friends for years. Chloe wore her favorite teddy bear pajamas that Rowan had bought last Christmas, and Emily was still in the unicorn pajamas that had become her favorite nightly uniform. "Good morning, Dad," Chloe said, coming in for a morning hug as she always did when she came to visit. "Good morning, sweetie," Rowan hugged her, breathing in the familiar scent of her shampoo. "Good morning, Daddy," Emily said softly, still testing the word on her tongue, still not fully used to it. "Good morning, Emily." Rowan kissed both of their foreheads, a gesture that came naturally now. "Did you two sleep well together?" "Chloe told me about school," Emily said excitedly, hanging on Rowan's arm. "And about the books she reads. And she told me what it's like to fly on an airplane. And Emily told me about the plants you guys planted," Chloe added, equally enthusiastic, "and about how she learned to write her name. Dad, could you teach me new things too?" Rowan stopped, surprised. "Like what?" "I don't know, maybe cooking. I've always wanted to know how to cook for real. Mom never lets me help much." "Or planting," Emily suggested. "We can plant more flowers together." Rowan looked at the two girls, their eyes shining with expectation and morning energy, and felt something warm spread through his chest. They wanted to spend time with him, learn things from him. When was the last time Chloe had asked him to teach her something? "But then let's learn together," he said. "The three of us." "The three of us," Chloe laughed. "You don't know how to cook either, Dad. Remember the pancake?" "Exactly. We'll figure out how to do it right together." "Yes, we'll be a team." Emily clapped her hands. They gathered in the kitchen, which had already become the heart of the house since Emily arrived. Rowan got the ingredients while Chloe and Emily arranged the utensils with the seriousness of professional chefs. This time, Chloe naturally took on the role of the older sister, teaching Emily what she had learned from watching her mother cook. "First, we crack the eggs into a separate bowl," Chloe explained, demonstrating carefully. "Thighs that way, if any shell falls in, we can get it out before mixing it with the rest." "Wow, that's smart," Emily applauded, impressed. "Why didn't Rowan know that?" "Because I never paid attention when your mother cooked," Rowan admitted, feeling slightly embarrassed. "I was always thinking about work or on the phone or on the computer." "Do you pay attention to us now?" Chloe asked, not with accusation in her voice, just genuine curiosity. "Now I pay attention to everything you do, every word, every laugh, every discovery." Chloe smiled, satisfied with the answer. She continued teaching Emily, who absorbed every instruction like a sponge. Rowan watched the two of them work together, Chloe patient and careful like an experienced teacher, Emily enthusiastic and attentive like the best of students. "Now stir slowly, like this," Chloe instructed, guiding Emily's small hand on the spoon. "So if you stir too fast, the batter splashes everywhere." "Is this good?" Emily asked, concentrating, the tip of her tongue peeking out of the corner of her mouth. "Perfect. You learn super fast. It's because you're a good teacher, just like your dad." Rowan leaned against the counter, simply watching the scene. It was surreal to see Chloe in the role of an older sister, teaching with the same patience he had discovered he had with Emily. It was as if she had grown up years in one night. The first pancake came out almost perfect, round, golden, with no burnt parts. "We did it!" Emily shouted, jumping for joy. "We're an amazing team," Chloe agreed, flipping the pancake with a skill that surprised Rowan. They made a respectable pile of pancakes that actually looked edible. They sat at the kitchen table, the three of them together for the first time for a Sunday breakfast, passing syrup and jam, sharing stories and laughter. "At school, we have PE. On Tuesdays," Chloe recounted excitedly, "and the teacher said I'm really good at running. Maybe I can teach you how to run too, Emily." "I want to learn everything," Emily said, her mouth full of pancake with syrup. "Running, math, science, history. Geography is super cool too. We learn about other countries, other cultures." Rowan ate in silence, watching the conversation flow naturally between the two. Chloe had regained an enthusiasm for school that he hadn't seen in months. When she used to visit before, she always seemed listless, responding in monosyllables. Now she was speaking with passion, wanting to share everything she knew. And Emily drank in every word, asking intelligent questions, connecting new information with things she already knew. Rowan realized she would be an excellent student when she finally started school. After breakfast, they decided to draw together. Chloe brought her art supplies from her room, imported colored pencils Rowan had bought that had sat unused for months, special paper, markers with different tip sizes. "Let's make a drawing for Dad," Chloe suggested, spreading the supplies on the living room floor. Good idea. What should we draw? Our family. But it has to be a very special drawing. Like a portrait? Yes, an official portrait of the Mitchell family. They spread out on the living room floor, papers all around, each creating her own project. Rowan tried to continue reading the Sunday paper, but he couldn't concentrate. He kept watching the two of them work, whispering to each other about colors and proportions, laughing when a line came out crooked. "Dad, how do you want to be drawn?" Chloe asked, looking up from her paper. "Tall or short?" "Tall," Emily answered before he could speak. "He's really tall, and he has to be smiling." "Why smiling?" "Because he's always smiling now. Ever since we became a family." Rowan stopped pretending to read the paper and looked directly at them. "Am I always smiling?" "Yes, you are," they both replied in unison, as if it were obvious. "A lot more than before," Chloe added, returning to her drawing. "When I used to come here before, you always seemed worried or tired or sad. Now you seem truly happy." "I am happy," Rowan admitted, setting the paper aside completely. "Happier than I've ever been in my life." "We're happy too," Emily said, without looking up from her paper. "Happy to have a family." They continued drawing for over an hour, and Rowan finally gave up any pretense of reading. He just watched as Chloe taught Emily drawing techniques she had learned at school, how to use shading to create depth, how to draw hair that looked like it had movement. "Look, if you do this with the pencil, very lightly, it looks like the hair is shiny," Chloe demonstrated. "Wow, how did you learn that?" "In art class. The teacher teaches really cool techniques. When you go to school, you'll learn too." "I'm going to love school," Emily said with a certainty that warmed Rowan's heart. "You will, and I can help you with your homework when I come to visit." "Are you going to visit all the time?" Chloe stopped drawing and looked at Rowan, then at Emily, a serious expression on her face. "I want to come all the time. Every weekend, if you guys want." "We want you to," Emily said immediately. "Always," Rowan confirmed, feeling his throat tighten with emotion. They spent the whole afternoon together, and Rowan mentally cancelled all his plans for the rest of the day. Chloe taught Emily how to tie her shoelaces, showing her the bunny ears trick that Rowan had never had the patience to teach. Emily showed Chloe how to talk to the plants in the yard, which made Chloe laugh at first, but she tried it too. "Hi, little sunflower plant," Chloe said to a small seedling, feeling a bit silly. "How are you today?" "Now you have to wait for it to answer," Emily instructed with the utmost seriousness. "How will I know when it answers?" "You feel it in your heart. It's like knowing when someone is looking at you." Chloe was silent for a moment, really trying to feel the plant. I think it's happy today," she said finally. "It is." "Because you talked to it." Rowan watched from the kitchen window, washing the lunch dishes. It was magical to see Chloe entering Emily's imaginative world, allowing herself to be a child again, rediscovering the magic she had lost. In the late afternoon, when Claire rang the doorbell to pick up Chloe, the two were inseparable, flipping through a storybook together on the sofa. "Already?" Emily asked, genuinely sad. "Can't she stay a little longer?" "I have school early tomorrow," Chloe explained, reluctantly closing the book. "But—" She looked at Rowan, then at Emily, then toward the door where Claire was waiting. "I'll be back next weekend. We're like sisters now, right?" Emily smiled so wide that Rowan was sure his heart would burst with happiness. "We're real sisters. Forever. Forever and ever." They hugged tightly, two blonde girls who had found in each other exactly what they didn't know they needed. "Take good care of Dad for me," Chloe whispered in Emily's ear. "I will. And you study hard so you can teach me new things when you come back." Chloe said goodbye to Rowan with a long hug. "Thank you, Dad." "For what, sweetie?" "For finding her. For being happy again." Chloe looked at Emily, who was waving from the porch. "And for giving me the coolest sister in the world." Rowan felt his eyes burn. "Thank you for accepting her. For accepting our new family. It was impossible not to. She loves you as much as I do." After Chloe left, Rowan and Emily stood on the porch waving until the car completely disappeared. Emily was sad, but not devastated. There was a new security about her. The absolute certainty that Chloe would be back. "Daddy," she said as they went inside. "So what? Are we a family of 3 forever now?" "We are." Rowan stopped walking and knelt in front of her in the middle of the living room. "Emily, there's something very important I need to tell you." She tilted her head, curious and slightly worried. "Remember when I told you about adoption? About how a person can become a child's father or mother, even if they aren't the biological parent?" "I remember. I spoke with some lawyers this week. If you want, we can make our family official on paper too. I can legally adopt you." Emily's eyes widened. "What do you mean, official?" "It means that legally, officially, you would be my daughter, forever. No one could ever take you away from me, and I could never abandon you. And I would have your last name. Would I be Emily Mitchell?" "You would. And a new birth certificate with your name on it?" "Yes. And you would be my dad on the government papers too." "I would be your dad everywhere, in every possible way." Emily was silent for a moment, processing the information seriously. "You really want to adopt me? More than anything in the world?" "Then yes, I really want to be your official daughter." 3 weeks later, Rowan was in a downtown courthouse, wearing his best navy blue suit, with Emily beside him in a new pink dress that Chloe had picked out for her during a video call. The process had been surprisingly fast. Emily had no known relatives, and Rowan had hired the best lawyers in the city. When the judge slammed the wooden gavel and solemnly declared the adoption official, Emily turned to Rowan with tears in her blue eyes. "Are you my real dad now?" "I am. Forever. And am I your real daughter?" "Forever and a day." They hugged right there in the courtroom, under the emotional eyes of the judge, the lawyers, and the social worker who had approved the adoption. It was official now. Stamped, signed. Emily was officially Emily Mitchell. Rowan was her legal official father, forever and ever. That night, after a celebratory dinner at Emily's favorite restaurant, she wanted to make a special drawing to mark the day. She sat at the kitchen table with her colored pencils, her tongue sticking out in total concentration. Rowan tried not to look while she worked, but it was impossible not to peek. She was drawing 3 figures holding hands, a tall man in the middle, a smaller girl on one side, and a slightly bigger girl on the other, all smiling enormous smiles, all with hair as yellow as the sun, all clearly happy and connected. Underneath the drawing, in neat letters that showed all her progress in writing, she carefully wrote, "A real family." "Done," she announced proudly, showing off the drawing as if it were a work of art. Rowan took the paper with reverence, studying every detail. It was simple, made with colored pencils and a lot of love. To him, it was the most beautiful thing he had ever seen. "Where should we hang it?" he asked. "In the living room, right in the middle of the wall, so everyone can see it when they come into our house." They went to the living room, and Rowan carefully tacked the drawing to the main wall right in the center, where anyone entering the house would see it immediately. Emily stood beside him, admiring her own work with satisfaction. "Now our house has our family on the walls too," she said. Rowan looked at the drawing, then at Emily, then around the house that had been completely transformed. There were toys organized on the bookshelf, children's books scattered about, plants growing on the windowsills, drawings on the fridge, constant music in the air. There was life pulsing in every room. There was family in every corner. There was everything he didn't know he was missing. "Daddy," Emily said, taking his hand. "What, sweetie? Thank you for adopting me and giving me a family. Thank you for letting me be your dad." They stood there looking at the drawing on the wall, and Rowan knew he would look at that drawing every day for the rest of his life. It was the visual proof that his life had changed forever, that he had found what truly mattered. Now the house had sound, had routine, had presence. Now he was a father completely. If this story touched your heart, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next ones. Leave a like because it helps this story get recommended to more people. See you in the next story.